Have you ever imagined a world where being different is a crime? In this story, those who don't have magical powers are thrown into prison. That's what happens to Verwell, a young man who never fit in. But everything changes when a giant explosion hits the ship where he's being held. The story begins by saying that lies are essential for life, because the truth can be too bitter. Then we see a white dove flying near a window, symbolizing an apparent peace. Several white birds cut across the blue sky, flying over the great city of Oshwoyer. A high-tech floating train passes over a bridge, showing how advanced the place is. The scene shifts to Verwell's trial, where he's condemned for not resonating with the sacred crystal. The archbishop also accuses him of helping others escape, making his crime even worse. Chained, the white-haired boy just grumbles, frustrated with his situation. With that, the archbishop sentences him to prison and shouts for them to take him to the capital. He's brutally thrown into a dark cell, beginning his punishment. Verwell reflects on being labeled a pariah just because he can't use the energy of the stones. With a determined look, he observes the other prisoners, all looking miserable. He thinks about how that religious group stole the freedom and future of so many people. Holding his necklace, Verwell decides that he needs to find a way to escape from there as soon as possible. The scene changes to the transport ship, with a guard reporting that all prisoners have been secured. The commander is informed that everything is ready and that they can set sail at any moment. With a firm gesture, he gives the final order to lift the anchor and start the journey. The gigantic ship, the Wave Runner, begins to take off, raising a cloud of dust. On top of the buildings, hooded figures observe the target and confirm that they'll follow the plan. Suddenly, a white-haired girl jumps, assuring them that they can count on her for the mission. Inside the ship, a banging noise echoes, but the guard is so drunk he doesn't even notice. Verwell tries to break the door with his body but ends up hitting his head hard. The impact throws him backward, falling onto the cell floor as another prisoner watches the scene. Frustrated, he wonders how to escape until a huge explosion shakes the ship. The boy is completely confused, not understanding where all that noise came from. In the control room, a guard desperately reports that an explosion has hit the ship. The commander yells angrily and orders someone to be sent to immediately. He turns to the chief researcher and tries to calm him, saying it was just a mechanical problem, but the researcher lights a cigarette, knowing that in truth some insects have entered. Amid the explosion's smoke, the hooded duo praises the bomb they used. Then, the crystal guards detect the intruders and rush to surround the two. The white-haired figure just gives a small smirk, seeming not to care about the guards. The white-haired person reveals herself, saying that the ceremony is grand and defies the guards. But her partner Ruko asks her not to be impulsive, because they have a mission to complete. The captain of the group then tells Ruko to handle the guards while she goes to find the prisoners. Euphoria pretends not to listen, thinking the captain is a killjoy, leaving Ruko embarrassed. Then, Ruko warns that there might be more enemies, which only makes Euphoria even more excited. The captain is warned to be careful, but she just turns and assures that everything will be fine. It's revealed that her name is Edith, and with a smile she says to leave the worries for later. Edith then stands over one of the guards, ready to face whoever appears next. In the cell area, the guards are confused by the noise, and one of them decides to go check. With the chaos, a little girl cries in fear while her mother tries to calm her down. One of the prisoners begs for help, but the guard gets irritated and yells for him to shut up. The guard's shout scares the child, who starts crying even louder while hugging her mother. Verwell throws a small stone at the guard, saying he shouldn't make children cry. Irritated, the guard calls him a miserable creature and asks if he wants to die. Verwell tries to apologize, but the guard is already approaching the cell with a baton in hand. Ruko warns that the cell door is ahead, but Euphoria says to leave it to her and throws a bomb. The bomb explodes violently, sending the nearby guard flying away with the impact. The poor guy crashes hard against the cell bars, right in front of our protagonist. Before passing out, the guard ends up tossing the key ring into the hallway. The keys fall right in front of Verwell, who's completely lost about what just happened. In another corridor, more guards see the smoke and get ready, knowing the invaders are coming. One of them, holding a crossbow, prepares to shoot and orders the others to follow his commands. As soon as the duo emerges from the smoke, the leader gives the order and everyone fires at once. But Ruko activates her weapon, which creates a force field to protect them from the attack. All the energy arrows hit the barrier and fall to the floor, causing no damage. Euphoria takes the chance and charges forward, jumping over the guards for a counterattack. With a single swing of her sword, she creates a tornado that defeats all the enemies at once. She asks who's next while Ruko laments the scene. Then the prisoners begin to flee. Verwell, now disguised as a guard, thinks that if he's caught helping, he'll be in serious trouble. He spies on Euphoria and realizes she's part of the rescue group, deciding it's best to stay away. But Euphoria ends up seeing Verwell hiding and asks who he is, exposing his disguise. She accuses him of fleeing while his comrades fight, and even though he tries to explain, she attacks. Back in action, Euphoria swings her giant sword. Fighting several enemies at once, she praises one of his moves. But when Verwell tries to say he's not an enemy, she cuts him off. Meanwhile, Ruko protects the prisoners, watching Verwell and Euphoria's fight from afar. Then she notices a red rope mark on the boy's wrist, a strange sign. Ruko then yells for Euphoria to wait, warning that he doesn't seem to belong to the enemy. Euphoria gets confused by him wearing the uniform, but is surprised by arrows flying in her direction. Verwell shouts for her to be careful and pushes her down, falling on top of her to protect her from the attack. The guards advance, and Euphoria, irritated, yells for Verwell to get off her. Calling him a pervert, she asks why he saved her, but quickly realizes that an arrow hit his backside. Ruko yells for Euphoria to get up because the crystal guards are approaching fast. Angry, Euphoria gets up, disarms a guard, and punches him squarely in the face. Verwell grabs the sword of a fallen soldier and joins the fight, helping to take down the enemies. The trio becomes surrounded by an army of guards, but they prepare to fight together. She asks why he attacked her, and he snaps back that she was the one who started the fight. Euphoria then asks his name, and he replies that he's called Verwell, confirming that he doesn't want to get caught. With a smile, she tells him to help her finish off the guards, and the trio jumps back into combat. In the control room, chaos breaks out with reports of explosions and escapes, and the commander yells for reinforcements. The chief researcher gets irritated by the shouting and tells the commander to get away from his desk. With a few clicks, he activates a security camera that descends from the ceiling and turns on. The device focuses on the battle, showing the trio fighting bravely against multiple soldiers. The researcher is shocked to see Euphoria on the screen, saying he never imagined finding her there. Suddenly, he bursts into a mad laugh, leaving the guards completely puzzled. The commander approaches and asks the Lord why he's so happy about the situation. He replies that he's found the perfect test subject for his daughter, leaving the commander even more confused. The scientist then picks up a strange weapon, saying it's time to draw a little blood. Back in the fight, Ruko warns that time is running out, and asks them to hold on tight. Verwell asks what she meant, but Euphoria tells him to focus on the fight since she still doesn't trust him. The ship continues its course peacefully, but suddenly it begins to shift in a strange way. Then a surge of energy hits the ship, catching Verwell and Euphoria by surprise in the middle of the fight. The guards also don't understand, wondering what happened as one of them falls to the floor with the ship breaking apart. Ruko creates a barrier to protect the prisoners from the debris. Verwell shields himself as best he can while pieces of the ceiling and walls crash down everywhere. Suddenly the shaking stops, and he wonders if it's over, since nothing seems to be happening. But then Euphoria yells for him to look down, and a huge magic circle appears on the floor. The energy from the circle is so strong that it throws one of the guards far away before he can react. Verwell is stunned by the situation, wondering what kind of trick that was. Ruko recognizes the magic circle but doesn't understand why anyone would use it on such a large scale inside the ship. The floor begins to creak, and Verwell panics, thinking it's a secret weapon from the enemy. A giant silhouette begins to rise from the circle, forcing everyone to retreat in fear. We see the creature's details. It appears to be a massive golem with an imposing sword. Euphoria is paralyzed with fear, and the golem raises its sword, ready to strike. She recognizes the monster from her past, and Verwell tries to encourage her. Not understanding what's going on, the mad scientist smiles and announces that the experiment is about to begin, making the golem awaken. The golem attacks with full force, but Verwell reacts quickly and pulls her away from danger at the last second. He lays her down as the golem charges forward, and Ruko joins them, asking if they're okay. Verwell then asks if she's seen that monster before and how they can take it down. She angrily replies that she's encountered it once, but back then, it wasn't this strong. With his sword, Verwell tries to block an attack, but is thrown far by the golem's sheer strength. Fallen on the ground, he panics, thinking it's over since the creature is way too fast. But then Euphoria jumps in front of him, ready to defend him from the finishing blow. With her sword, she manages to block the giant's attack, creating a shockwave. With a smile, she says that now they're even since he saved her earlier. The scientist laughs at the weapon's success and calls the commander an idiot for suggesting a retreat. He explains that the golem won't stop, and the duo can barely dodge its lightning-fast attacks. Meanwhile, Ruko protects the prisoners from the debris, wondering how else she can help. A flashback shows that their other mission was precisely to destroy the enemy's new weapon. Euphoria says the enemies are weak, but Edith explains that the intelligence was reliable. Then Ruko grabs a device from the table, saying it might be the key to victory. Euphoria gets excited about the prototype but then hugs Ruko and says the true key is her. Edith gets flustered by the scene, worried that they'll drop the prototype on the floor. Back in the fight, Ruko yells to Euphoria and throws the device toward her. She jumps to catch it and upon landing, asks Viorel to distract the golem for a while. With a confident smile, Euphoria says she'll show him what the true key to victory is. Viorel grumbles but decides to taunt the monster, calling it a blockhead. The tactic works and the golem gets enraged, starting to attack Viorel with everything it has. Meanwhile, Euphoria activates the device, and a mysterious voice starts talking to her. Viorel runs desperately, shouting that the flying monster can't catch him. The golem stops, and Viorel takes the chance to launch an energy attack with his hands. The attack hits the monster directly, and Viorel says that it missed, warning it to get ready. Fallen and exhausted, he hears voices encouraging him, telling him to take the power and save the future. The device glows intensely and transforms into a blue energy sword, ready for battle. Euphoria releases the energy of the new sword, impressing Viorel and Ruko with her power. The golem wastes no time and flies toward her, preparing an aerial attack with its sword. But she stands firm, ready to cross blades with the giant monster charging at full speed. Viorel wonders if they can win, but her sword starts to crack under the pressure. The golem also begins to break apart, leaving Viorel confused about what's happening. The scientist becomes furious with the destruction, while Ruko explains that the energy has run out. More guards arrive. But Edith appears with a ship to evacuate everyone from there. The captain orders everyone to board, and Ruko calls Viorel to come with them in the escape. But he tells them to take the others, assuring that he'll hold off the guards to give them cover. The commander gets angry and orders the ship's course to be adjusted, so no one can escape. Viorel runs through the broken ship, knowing that if he's caught, it's over, and prepares his final shot. He jumps and barely manages to hang on, but his hand slips and he starts to fall. But at the last second, Euphoria stretches out and manages to grab his hand, saving him again. The commander wants to chase them, but the scientist stops him, saying he's had a new inspiration. He tells the commander not to worry, because the city of Oshfor is full of outcasts. Angrily, the scientist breaks his glasses, saying he needs more food for his children. The rescue ship now flies over green fields and mountains, continuing its journey peacefully. Inside the ship, a shadowy figure tries to steal food and drinks. Taking advantage of the distraction, suddenly the figure is caught and beaten, while Euphoria complains that he ran away again. From that day on, Verval began staying with the rescue group. The Ark, their ship, serves as both transport and operations base, and is well equipped. Inside, Ruko finds him in his room and scolds him, telling him not to drink until he recovers. Euphoria also scolds him, saying that's why he recovers so slowly. Ruko tries to calm her friend, but Verval takes the chance to hide a bottle. With a smile, Ruko says it's time to change clothes, because Edith wants to see him. The scene cuts to a flashback explaining that the Crystallese conflux has ruled everything since the year 554. All the children of the kingdom must take part in a talent test with the amethyst. The talented ones are those who can resonate with the sacred crystal of the religion. Once chosen, they can enter the blessed land, a world of fantasy and illusion. Because of that, the annual test has become a grand and costly event in major cities. But for some, like this little girl lost in the crowd, the event was terrifying. Those who can't resonate with the crystal are branded as outcasts and taken to judgment. Their fate is torture and death, and a cruel guard grabs the little girl who asks for help. He holds her by the chin and says it would be a shame to send her to a cell, with a wicked smile. The guard tears the girl's clothes, but Verval appears and shouts for him to let her go. The guards tell him to leave, saying not to ruin their fun, but he insists. Furious, Verval yells once again for them to release the girl, and charges at them. Back in the present, he finishes telling his story to Edith, Euphoria, and Ruko. Edith then confirms that he saved the girl and ended up being captured because of it. Verval becomes furious, saying that the outcasts are tortured and killed, and no one can stand that. But Edith reminds him that most people think differently, and once an outcast, always an outcast. He slams the table, saying they just want a normal life and that it's not fair. Calmly, Edith sets her cup on the table and asks what his next plan is. Verval doesn't know what to say because he's an orphan and has nowhere to return to now. Edith then makes the invitation, asking what he thinks about joining their group. Verval is completely shocked by the proposal, unable to believe what he just heard. Euphoria calls him an idiot and explains that Edith is inviting him to join the arc. Excited, he asks if she's serious and grabs the captain's hand. Leaving her flustered, Euphoria gets irritated by his boldness, yelling for him to let go of the captain's hand, but Edith calms him down, explaining that she asked for him to be brought there to discuss this very thing. With puppy-like ears, he accepts immediately, saying that it's no problem and that he's in. She asks if he's sure since they fight against the conflux, and there's no turning back. Verval explains that there must be wanted posters of him all over the kingdom, so it's better to join them. Besides, he promises that he will expose the conflux and save all the oppressed people. Edith smiles and welcomes him, but he asks if he can drink the ship's wine. The question leaves the three of them completely speechless. With Euphoria covering her face, Ruko welcomes him, while Edith says that the two will help him get familiarized. Suddenly, the door opens and two identical children shout that they disagree with everything. The little girl complains that they waited too long for their return, and now he's stealing their time. She continues, saying that he used to believe in the crystal and might be a spy. The two surround him, one with a syringe and the other with an axe, threatening to make him talk. Edith pats the girl's head and explains that, despite appearances, Verval saved Euphoria's life. But the little girl argues that it's not convincing, and that one shouldn't judge by appearance. The twins argue and say that if Edith doesn't recognize them, how can she be sure about him? The captain slaps her own forehead, and the girls are dragged out of the room. Ruko apologizes for their behavior, but Verval says that it's no problem. The next morning, the alarm rings, and the ship continues its journey through the blue sky. Verval wakes up startled, realizing that he overslept and promised to visit the base with the girls. Worried about the scolding he'll get, he runs through the corridor but is stopped by the twins. They came to apologize for calling him a spy and ask if he can forgive them. Verval laughs and says that it's fine, patting both their heads with a smile. He tries to say goodbye, but the girls invite him to drink the best wine on the ship. The proposal makes Verval's eyes sparkle, completely thrilled by the idea of wine. The girls lead him to the storage room, saying that Edith's wine is on the top shelf. He says to leave it to him and climbs the ladder, but the two take the chance to sneak away. But when he grabs the box, he realizes he's been tricked and hears the door being locked from outside. Meanwhile, Yuffie and Ruko wait, with her already impatient over how long the guy is taking. Then the twins come running and throw themselves into their arms, super excited. Ruko asks what they're doing there, and the curious girl wants to know if they're waiting for Verval. They confirm, but Yuffie complains that he's already almost half an hour late for the meeting. One of the twins then boasts, saying she had already warned that he wasn't trustworthy. Ruko tells one of them to stay but worries about what to do if Verval shows up later. The other proudly guarantees that he's not coming, which makes Yuffie very suspicious. The girl gets nervous and stammers that it's just a guess, but Ruko already senses something's wrong. With noses growing like Pinocchio's, they deny everything, but the lie is obvious. Yuffie then figures it out and asks if his disappearance has something to do with the two of them in the storage room. Verval bangs on the door, realizing that those two brats locked him in. Angry, he tries to break the door but only manages to knock down a bunch of boxes. He dodges the falling boxes but several objects fly and shatter on the floor then. A strange golden disc falls to the ground. Catching the boy's attention, he approaches curiously and picks up the object. Wondering what the heck it is, the disc starts glowing, and Verval is suddenly transported into a holographic scene. He sees himself again in the fight against the giant golem, completely shocked by the situation. The monster attacks and he narrowly dodges, still holding the disc in his hand back to reality. He realizes it was all a vision, and that the disc displays his memories. Finding it cool, he pokes the disc asking for more, but Yuffie kicks the door open. The poor guy is sent flying with the impact and gets stuck in the wall. Completely broken, he faints, but before that he says he found something funny and that it wasn't the children's fault. Verval shows the disc and explains that when he picked it up, his memories were projected before him. Yuffie thinks he's delirious, but Ruko suggests that the disc might have read his memories. Thinking it's nonsense, Yuffie grabs the disc. She's never seen anything like it on the arc. As she touches the object, the trio is surrounded by a blue light and a magic circle on the floor. Suddenly, they are transported to a strange place, not understanding what just happened. Yuffie wakes up underwater, not knowing where she is. While Ruko shouts her name, she has a strange vision, wondering if everyone will abandon her again in that place. Suddenly Ruko wakes her up, and Yuffie complains of a headache. Confused about what happened, Verval looks around and says, "It seems like they entered an incredible enchanted land." Yuffie grabs Ruko's arm, asking if he's dreaming and where they really are. She then looks toward the horizon and is shocked, with a look of pure terror on her face. The place is a peaceful village in the countryside, but she can't believe she's back there again. Verval notices her hands are trembling and can't understand why. He approaches and asks what happened, but the girl remains in shock, not answering. Verval then asks if she knows where they are, since she seems to recognize the place. But both she and Ruko shake their heads, saying they have no idea where they are. Ruko whispers that if the place is strange to them, it must have something to do with Yuffie's memory. Verval agrees and notices that, from her expression, Yuffie feels disgusted by that place. With a light bulb over his head, he gets an idea, and suggests they enter the village to look for clues. The trio decides that's their best option and begins walking toward the village. They spot an old man, and Verval runs to try to talk to him, but when he tries to touch the old man's shoulder, his hand simply passes through him. The man turns without expression, and Verval is confused. As he simply walks away, he tries to reach him again, but his hand passes through the old man's body like a ghost. Ruko says something's wrong and reminds Verval that he saw his memories with the disc. She concludes that the device brought them inside an illusion, and he agrees. Suddenly, Yuffie hears a child calling for their father, and becomes fully alert. She sees a happy family, with a little girl running and flying a butterfly kite, but the girl trips and falls face first on the ground, worrying her parents. The mother runs to help her, asking if she's hurt, while the little one cries. The girl points to the broken kite, crying for having ruined her favorite toy. The father approaches and promises to make her a new one, trying to calm his daughter. The mother pats her head, and the girl cuddles close, feeling safe and loved. Watching the scene, Yuffie can't hold back her tears. Verval comments that it's her childhood, and that he envies the happy family she had. Angrily, Yuffie says he has no idea what he's talking about. With a dark expression, suddenly, the scenery changes, and they are transported into a blue whirlwind. The illusion takes them to a plaza where a ceremony is about to begin. Firewall is impressed by the number of people gathered, not understanding what's happening. A boy approaches a priest, who stands beside a purple crystal sphere. The boy touches the crystal, which shines brightly, showing that he is compatible. The priest congratulates him and says that the gate to the land of fantasy will open for him. Then the boy's mother hugs him, and the priest calls the next one, a little girl named Yuffie. The present Yuffie tries to stop her younger self from going, but her hand trembles. Ruko calms her, reminding her that it's only an illusion and can't truly harm her. Little Euphria approaches and touches the crystal, which begins to glow intensely, but suddenly the sphere starts to crack, leaving the little girl completely terrified. She looks at her parents, who stare at her with disgust, and the priest gives his verdict. The crowd begins to whisper, calling the girl cursed, while a white feather falls. Little Euphria cries as she is expelled and humiliated, with her parents planning to abandon her. She begs for help as she's taken away, watching her parents leave without looking back. Back in the illusion, Euphria falls to her knees, completely shaken by the painful memory. She stands on a glass floor, surrounded by unconscious bodies all around. Crying, she screams, asking why she always ends up alone, no matter what she does. A sphere of dark energy surrounds her, while Varwell and Ruko watch, unable to do anything. Ruko explains that she created a barrier to isolate herself, and Varwell shouts her name in vain. Varwell tries to break the barrier, but it's useless, and Ruko worries that the memories might consume her. He calms her, saying that since it isn't real, there shouldn't be any danger for now. Varwell then asks Ruko to tell him about her past, hoping to find a clue. The scene cuts to a desert camp, showing the base of the Irwager Alliance. A younger Ruko runs in, asking Edith and the instructor Maria for help. She explains that Euphria saved her, and that she can't just watch her in that state. The instructor remembers the transport of a healing device, and suggests a risky plan. Maria explains that the intelligence failed, and they were ambushed by the enemy's secret weapon. Euphria is placed inside a healing machine, and they warn there could be side effects. Ruko prays for her to be okay, and the girl starts having nightmares about the battle. The golem advances, and one of Euphria's comrades yells for her to deliver the package. Suddenly, she opens her eyes, still shaken by the vivid memories of the fight. Ruko notices she's awake, and calls her, relieved to see her conscious. She explains that Euphria fainted upon arrival, and that the treatment changed her hair color. The girl doesn't recognize Ruko, and the little one introduces herself, a bit sad about the lack of memory. Euphria apologizes, saying that her head hurts, and that she's very confused. Suddenly, she remembers her comrades, and desperately asks where they are. Ruko doesn't know how to answer, and suggests they ask Edith and the instructor. But Euphria tries to get out of bed, even with Ruko asking her to stay down. She bursts into the command tent, and asks about the two, wanting to know where her friends are. Edith scolds her, saying that she just recovered and shouldn't be walking around. But Euphria insists, ignoring the pain and demanding to know where her teammates are. The instructor reveals that the conflux cleared the battlefield, and that Euphria was the only survivor. The girl faints from the shock of the news, while Ruko screams her name in despair. Back in the present, a ship flies over a camp, and the illusion of memory continues. Euphria returns to the destroyed battlefield, now in her armor, and faces an army. The mad scientist welcomes her back, noticing that she used the healing device. She demands to know where her comrades are, and he says his children took good care of them with a cruel smile. He explains that he got rid of the mercenaries since they didn't have what he wanted. Euphria is in shock, asking with a trembling voice if he killed them. But the scientist laughs, saying that he fed them to his children so nothing would go to waste. Filled with rage, she charges forward, screaming that he will pay for what he did to her friends. With a snap of his fingers, the scientist summons the giant golem, which appears right in front of her. The machine stares at her, ready for battle, and the girl prepares for the fight. Thinking about her comrades, she attacks the golem with all her strength and fury. Her sword collides with the monster's arm, creating a powerful shockwave. The golem then prepares a counterattack, charging its fist with deadly electric energy. The golem's punch throws her far away, but she manages to protect herself with her arms at the last second. The scientist calls her weak but is surprised by arrows that almost hit him. He yells, asking whose, and sees a soldier with an arrow through his head. Instructor Maria appears, threatening to pierce his head with a single shot with the help of reinforcements. Euphria stands up, assuring that she's fine despite the injuries. The scientist snaps his fingers and decides to call it a day. Ordering the golem to retreat with a sadistic smile, he says goodbye, leaving Euphoria full of anger and frustration. Ruko finishes telling that from that moment on, Euphoria became her partner in the arc. She says she has always admired her, but that her unshakable spirit sometimes scares her. Verwal suggests it's because of her past, and Ruko worries about her friend's disappearance. A golden butterfly lands on his arm, leaving the boy curious about its appearance. The butterfly speaks, inviting him to travel and save his friend, and Verwal asks what it means. It flaps its wings, releasing pure energy that relieves all the discomfort of the illusion. The butterfly explains that it's not an enemy, and that their friend is trapped in a double illusion. Verwal and Ruko agree to trust the butterfly, determined to save their friend. Then Verwal's necklace glows, and the butterfly guides them to the other layer of the illusion. They appear in a village engulfed in flames, and Ruko says they must find her quickly. Suddenly a burst of fire grazes past Verwal. Startling the boy, Ruko creates a barrier to protect them, and the energy dissipates with the explosion. Verwal wonders how illusions can attack them, and his braid comes undone. A figure emerges from the flames, and Ruko recognizes the silhouette of her sister. The illusion of Euphoria attacks Ruko without thinking with an empty and hateful stare. Verwal steps in front and blocks the strike with his sword, protecting his friend from the attack. Ruko asks if she doesn't recognize them, and Verwal warns that something's wrong with her. The illusion of Euphoria screams, telling them to leave her alone and stay away. With a powerful shout, she releases a wave of energy that throws them both far away. The force of the attack carves a path of destruction on the ground, showing her power. Verwal and Ruko retreat, and the girl prepares to attack again, out of control. But the butterfly warns that she's not their friend, but an illusion born from her resentment. The butterfly explains that it will help them communicate with her mind to resolve the conflicts. Ruko understands, and Verwal says that this time he will be the key to victory. With determination, the boy runs toward the illusion, ready to put the fake Euphoria leaps to attack, shouting for him to stay back, but Verwal doesn't retreat. Ruko blocks the strike with her weapon, giving her friend a chance to get close to her. He grabs her from behind and asks if she's forgotten her good friends. With the butterfly glowing, Verwal shouts that this is it, and the two are enveloped in light. An explosion of flames occurs, and the scene suddenly changes completely. Verwal wakes up in a dark place, surrounded by thorns. With little Euphoria curled up, he wonders if she's trapping herself there by choice, and decides to approach. The boy asks how long she'll stay depressed, and the little girl gets startled. She begs him to leave and forget her, because being with her will only bring bad luck. But Verwal refuses, saying that true friends never abandon each other. She says that all her comrades died, and that her parents abandoned her. The girl explains that because of the name Outcast, she became a homeless wanderer to survive. She hid her identity and joined an underworld gang. Verwal realizes that they don't use crystal weapons, which is why they live off the radar. But she explains that fate found her, and the conflux eventually discovered everything. They sent troops to eliminate the gang, and ironically, only she, the supposed culprit, survived. Verwal says it wasn't her fault because the conflux had already planned to destroy the gang long ago. She asks what happened next, still shaken by the memory of her identity. Hungry and cold, she broke into a mercenary's tent to steal food, but she was caught on her way out, clutching the food basket tightly. Unwilling to let go, one of the mercenaries calls her a little thief cat, but she threatens them with a knife. The others approach to calm her down, saying their group always takes in the lost ones. The leader tells her to eat as much as she wants, approaching with a gentle smile. The girl shouts that she's not hungry, but her growling stomach gives her away instantly. Later, she devours the food, and the old man guesses that she's also a fugitive outcast. With a friendly smile, the leader of the group invites her to join them. The girl stops eating, surprised and suspicious of the unexpected offer she just received. The mercenaries laugh and confirm that most of them there are outcasts, too. From that day on, she became a member of the group, training and hunting with them. The girl finally found a new family and lived happily with her new companions. She thought life could go on like that forever, surrounded by friends and joy. Until one day, the giant golem appeared and destroyed everything she loved once again. It was during that time that she met Ruko and Edith, who took her in when she had no one. She found warmth again on the ark, but realized that no one can escape the past, the girl blames herself for bringing misfortune to everyone she loves, from her parents to the mercenaries. Verwell then understands that this is why she always pushes forward, as a form of redemption. She asks him to stay away, and the thorns begin to grow. Trying to grab him, he steps back. Surprised by her reaction and by the strength of the thorns that appear from nowhere, the girl says she doesn't want to see anyone else die in front of her. But Verwell gets angry and shouts that enough is enough. Saying that everyone goes through hard times, he says that blaming herself won't bring anyone back. And the thorns begin to retreat. The thorns grab the souls of the people she lost, and the girl screams for him to stay away. Outside, Ruko holds off the attacks from the fake Euphoria, telling Verwell to hurry. Inside her mind, the girl asks for help to overcome her inner demons. The souls of the mercenaries accuse her of being cursed and of bringing trouble to them. The gang figures blame her for surviving, and she can only apologize, crying. Her own parents say she's an outcast, and that they should never have had her. Verwell pushes forward, jumping over the ghostly figures that torment her non-stop. He breaks free from the thorns, shouting that this idea that outcasts bring bad luck is nonsense. The boy reminds her that she saved hundreds of outcasts, and that she's their lucky charm. He says that the sacrifice of her friends won't be in vain, and that they won't accept depression. The scientist appears, asking if she's willing to commit herself to evil. He questions whether she's going to surrender despite all the efforts they made so far. A sword strikes the ground, and little Euphoria stands up with a new look in her eyes. The present Euphoria thanks Verwell, as the illusion of her past disappears. She says goodbye to her old comrades, thanking them for saving her and teaching her to live. She promises that she'll defeat the conflux, and her friends encourage her, saying she can do it. With a shout, she breaks through the thorn barrier, freeing herself from the prison of her memories back in reality. The illusion of Euphoria attacks but is blocked by Ruko. The dark energy starts leaving her body and the girl screams in pain from the overload. A bright light surrounds the place, and the illusion finally dissipates completely. The trio falls onto the floor of the storage room, and Ruko asks if Euphoria is back to normal. With a smile, she begins to apologize for everything that happened inside the illusion. Ruko cries and hugs her, saying she was worried about her the whole time. Euphoria comforts her, and Verwell says that what matters is that she's fine now. He jokes that he's hurt too, but she knocks him to the floor with a punch. Ruko asks about the disc, and Euphoria says that thanks to it, her goal became clear. With determination, Ruko says she'll protect her, and Euphoria smiles, excited. Verwell joins them, and the trio makes a promise to become heroes together. Then, the twins arrive, saying that the captain sent them to apologize to him. Verwell pretends he won't forgive them but changes his mind when he sees the bottle of wine. Idnath watches from afar, thinking that Verwell will become the light that guides all outcasts. Ark ships arrive at the Alliance base, preparing to land on the runway. Idnath disembarks and is greeted by a group, welcoming everyone to the Ark base. Supply crates are unloaded, and Euphoria and Ruko over here talk about a secret operation. The two approach, and Euphoria greets the Alliance guard captain. With a smile, he greets her back and carefully takes the chest she offers. He praises the gesture, thanking her for the gift, but seems a little confused. Euphoria explains that it's a dangerous illusion device and that the captain asked to have it destroyed. She says it's a waste and suggests that they could use it for combat training. But Ruko warns her that it's too risky since it could affect people's minds. Euphoria agrees and changes the subject, asking how they found her inside the illusion. Ruko in chibi form starts describing the scene in a very dramatic and exaggerated way. She continues the act showing how the thorns appeared and trapped them, with a punch in the air, leaving Euphoria embarrassed by the performance. Ruko explains that's how Verwell found her. With the help of that butterfly, Euphoria gets excited and decides to investigate his pendant, dragging Ruko along. They arrive at his door, which has a very clear sign telling people to knock before entering. But Euphoria ignores the warning and bursts the door open, startling Verwell, who spits out his coffee. She storms in, asking if there are enemies, and finds him in pajamas. Laughing at the situation, the girl stares at him seriously and pins him against the wall, ordering him not to move. Verwell yells for help, and Ruko greets him good morning, while her friend interrogates him. He explains that he's worn the pendant forever and that it only glowed near the butterfly. With a magnifying glass, Euphoria examines the object, wondering what the heck that butterfly is. Verwell asks for the pendant back, but she ignores him and calls Ruko to take a look. Ruko says the butterfly might be related to Irithyll, and the two become confused. The legend says that on their planet, there lives a goddess who represents the will of all beings. She governs the spiritual world and instills her energy in every soul that is reborn. It's said that when a traveler gets lost, the goddess energy turns into a butterfly to guide them, but over time, belief in the goddess faded, and her name was forgotten. Verwell asks if the butterfly is the goddess incarnation, and Ruko says it's possible. He praises her knowledge, but Ruko explains that it was Edith who told them the legend. Verwell comments that it sounds just like Euphoria, and suddenly she kicks his pendant. The object absorbs the elemental energy from the kick, leaving the two completely amazed. Ruko says she remembers when Euphoria used the astrolabe, and that both guide elemental power. Verwell scratches his head, confused, and asks what the heck elemental power even is. Euphoria calls him an idiot, but he snaps back that everyone's ignorant about something. Ruko then starts a lesson, explaining that everyone is born with a power given by the goddess. She continues, saying that they are outcasts because they can't use this power properly. With training, outcasts can use the astrolabe to release the power, but it's unstable. Euphoria promises to show the conflux what true elemental power is, full of determination. Verwell shows that he can create a small effect with his power, but it's very weak. Ruko is shocked that he can do it, and Euphoria decides to train him seriously. She begins giving instructions, explaining how the power should flow. He keeps taking her tips, and a vase starts to shake. Suddenly the pendant glows brightly, and Ruko screams in panic, begging Verwell to stop. He tries to control the energy with his hands, but the elemental power is going out of control. Then Euphoria yells at him, managing to save the vase from falling at the last second. Verwell apologizes for not being skilled, but knocks on the door to interrupt their training. A member of the Ark peeks through the door, saying that Captain Edith called him and the girls. Curious, they ask why, and the man says that the Irwiger Alliance is also at the base. Euphoria then rushes into the room, asking Edith if she was looking for them. The captain introduces Issa and Asa, two outcasts the Alliance rescued and transferred to the Ark. But Euphoria becomes suspicious and asks why they're wearing Conflux uniforms. Asa explains that they were once members of the Conflux, but the clothes are just a disguise. He continues, saying that Issa isn't well, and apologizes on her behalf for not speaking. With a smile, Ruko says there's no need to apologize since they're all comrades now. Edith then asks Euphoria and Ruko to accompany the girl to the hall so she can rest. The captain assures Asa that with the Ark's technology, Issa will soon feel better. With a serious look, Edith asks him to tell what happened in the Stargard forest. Asa holds the cup, and with trembling hands begins recounting that day. The scene cuts to Verwell, who seems to remember the old director while reading a book. Suddenly a scream echoes and Asa jumps up startled, shouting that it's Issa. The girl floats in the air, launching ice crystals and yelling for no one to come near. Euphoria dodges with a smile, calling the girl a brat and provoking her. But one crystal flies toward Ruko, and Asa steps in front to protect her from the strike. Issa is shocked to see her friend injured, and a loud thud echoes through the hallway. Edith appears holding the unconscious girl, saying she only knocked her out for a while. Ruko worries about his wound, but Asa only wonders why Issa attacked them. He explains that she pushed them away as soon as they entered, while Ruko starts healing him. Euphoria then points to the floor, saying that the girl got agitated when she saw the carpet. Asa realizes everything and explains that the six-pointed star made her remember the forest. A flashback begins and he tells that the place was a Conflux orphanage but was their home. He remembers that the director treated them like his children, and their lives were full of joy. He says they took care of the orphanage together, adopting many abandoned children. But everything fell apart when he and Issa were judged as outcasts, causing trouble for everyone. For defending them, the director was seen as a heretic, and the conflux began to pressure him. The director was summoned to a meeting, facing the shadowy figures of the organization. Asa reveals that the conflux turned him into a reedied monster that attacked everyone. The memory leaves the Asa and Issa from that time completely terrified by the scene. Ruko is shocked by the story and tries to calm him, asking him to stay in control. He explains that ever since then, Issa has been trapped in that tragedy and asks not to be rejected. But Euphoria says that the arc never abandons anyone, and Ruko promises to help Issa overcome it. Moved by their support, Asa accepts their help to take care of his friend. He lowers his head and thanks them sincerely. Relieved to have found a safe haven, the scene shifts to the ship, and Ruko asks if he's ever tried talking to Issa about the trauma. He replies that he's tried everything, and we see Virtual with a recreational therapy plan. But his therapy only annoyed Euphoria, and he explains that Issa always has outbursts just like today. Ruko advises him not to push himself too hard, since overcoming pain takes time. Virtual suggests using the disc to enter Issa's mind, but Euphoria grabs him. Suddenly they are pulled into an illusion and find themselves inside the girl's memories. Euphoria recognizes the energy from the disc, but realizes it's coming from Virtual's necklace. Ruko deduces that the necklace recorded the magic, and Virtual's thoughts activated it. With a flash of light, the pendant's energy expands, surrounding everyone in the room. The trio is then transported into the illusion. Ready for another mental journey, they appear in front of the orphanage, and Virtual celebrates that the plan worked. A nurse invites them inside, but Virtual finds it strange and sees little Issa outside. In chibi form, they decide to take it slow while Euphoria gets angry with the conflux. Near the director's office, Asa hears a shout. Vehemently refusing a request, the conflux officer says he should return the favor, but the director refuses to risk the children. The man calls him ridiculous, saying his struggle will be useless against the arrival of Fantasyland. Outside, Virtual overhears the conversation, and thinks he's heard that phrase before. Young Asa warns that the director will suffer punishment, and the trio decides to follow the officers. The officer turns and orders his men to mark the day of judgment for the renegades, but Euphoria grabs one of the guards, and he ends up confessing that he buried crystals in the yard. The scene shows a close-up of the sacred crystal, emanating a sinister purple energy. Virtual asks what it's for, and Ruko explains that the energy can create a hidden domain in chibi form. Euphoria shouts that she'll destroy everything from the conflux and jumps to attack the crystal. Ruko thinks it's too easy, while Virtual complains that Euphoria scared him on purpose. Suddenly, a dome of lightning surrounds the area, and a scream of agony echoes through the sky. We see young Asa and Issa running terrified, trying to escape the chaos. They hide in a room, and the girl asks why the director turned into a monster, but finds them and breaks down the door, cornering the two inside. Back in the present, the trio calls for them, worried about their disappearance. Virtual hears a noise and points to a building, saying the scream came from there. The monster is choking young Asa, who can barely breathe in the creature's grasp. Little Issa throws something at it and yells for it to let go, and the monster drops him to the floor. The creature roars, and the girl cries, wondering if she's to blame for all of it. Asa screams in despair and runs to try to stop the monster's attack, but little Issa creates an energy barrier, blocking the creature's claw. Angry, Asa tells her to move aside, leaving the little girl confused by the command. Then the trio arrives, and Euphoria attacks the creature, shouting for it to stop. Virtual is shocked to see her sword break, and Ruko explains that it's the rejection of Issa's mind. With the path clear, the monster charges again. Ready to strike mercilessly, it reaches out to grab the little girl, who screams, begging it not to do it. The monster's eye focuses on her, while the present Issa screams for it to stay away. Suddenly the current Issa uses her power and traps the creature in icy thorns with blood dripping. She faints, and the monster laments not having protected the children with tears in her eyes. Issa asks if it's really the director standing before her. The scene cuts to young Asa, who wonders if it's their fault for lacking faith. The director says he has no answer, and asks Asa to kill him and flee from the conflux. Little Issa cries, saying she can't do it, while he touches her face. He begs for an honorable end, but the girl can only refuse, terrified by the request. The director says he's proud of her, and Issa hugs him as the ice consumes him completely. Desperate, the girl can only scream his name. Heartbroken by the scene, suddenly the trio is expelled from the illusion, falling back into the treatment room. Euphoria complains about being back, and Ruko explains that Issa's mind expelled them. Issa worries, saying that if they don't act, she could lose consciousness completely. Angry, Euphoria rips the pendant from Verwell's neck. Determined to go back in, she shouts that Shell returned to destroy the conflux, and Verwell tries to stop her in vain. Back in the illusion, a smiling nurse welcomes her at the orphanage door, but Euphoria shoves her aside without thinking twice, yelling for her to get out of the way. Out of patience, she runs down the hallway and kicks the director's office door open. A guard draws his sword and asks who she is, while the conflux officer watches the scene. With her sword in hand, she declares that it's time for payback, ready to end them. With a single strike, Euphoria charges forward and takes down several guards at once. Then one of the guards begins to glow, and she warns that he's going to explode and they need to run. A massive explosion happens, and Verwell complains that Euphoria should warn before attacking. The scene repeats once more, showing the director saying goodbye to the children in the illusion. Back in the real world, Issa seems to be getting worse, and Asa calls out to her worried. The trio is thrown out of the illusion again, and Asa asks what happened to the girl. Verwell apologizes, saying they failed, and Euphoria gets angry that nothing has changed. He questions the pendant and his friend teases him, almost starting a fight between the two. But Viral ignores the provocation and becomes thoughtful, repeating the word false in his mind with an idea. He turns to Asa and says he needs to confirm something with him. In chibi form, Ruko explains that the truth can guide them, and Yuffie gets excited to fight. Seeing Issa getting worse, the group unites, promising they won't let the tragedy happen. Back in the illusion, the nurse greets them again, welcoming them at the orphanage entrance. Viral tries to distract her shirtless, which leaves the nurse completely speechless. Euphoria attacks from behind, but the woman reveals herself as an enemy and launches a fireball. Ruko blocks the attack, and the creature is revealed with flaming hair, ready for battle. Euphoria blocks the strike, and the monster woman is shocked for being discovered so quickly. Viral lands a punch, explaining that he knew she was fake because she didn't smell like a nurse. A flashback shows Asa confirming that the orphanage didn't have money to hire a nurse. Then he yells that she doesn't belong in Oz's memory, but Ruko warns him to be careful. The creature releases an explosion, and the trio protects themselves with energy barriers to endure it. The monster says the forest is the designated place for the arrival of something called Fantasyland. But the trio doesn't flinch, and the creature mocks them, saying they're all just pawns in the plan. Viral becomes confused by the words, and suddenly Asa appears right behind him in the illusion. With anger, she accuses the monster of the director's death, but the creature blames her for what happened. Euphoria tells it to shut up, but Asa admits that she was the one who killed him, shocking everyone. The monster calls her a traitor, and the girl falls into despair, screaming that she's not a murderer. The scene shifts, and the director appears to comfort her, saying it wasn't her fault. He asks her to live with Asa and protect the innocent, saying goodbye to the girl. The monster mocks, but Asa stands up, and the trio prepares to protect her from the attack. The creature charges up an electric strike but is caught off guard by an ice attack that freezes it. The monster becomes enraged by the attack, but Asa faces it, saying she won't let it ruin her memory. With new powers, she launches ice pillars, but the creature advances and breaks the attack with a punch. A memory of the director appears, advising her never to let anyone decide her future. He encourages her to move forward without fear, promising he'll always be by her side. With this new strength, the girl releases an ice explosion that finally defeats the monster. With victory, she asks if they managed to beat it, assuring that everything's fine now. The director's soul then asks Asa to seal the memory to save Asa, and he accepts the mission. The Asa from the illusion apologizes for running away, and the director's soul thanks her before fading. Back in reality, the group falls into the room, and Asa comments that it seems they succeeded. He thanks everyone for their help, and Ruko says it was nothing since outcasts are comrades. Bertrand Lull then calls Edith to talk, and she suggests they step out so Asa can rest. Outside, he explains the plan, and the captain confirms the name, Arrival of Fantasyland. Asa explains that he overheard the discussion and that the Conflux wanted to conduct research at the orphanage. Bertrand asks him for more details, since their vision was from Asa's perspective. He remembers that the children fell asleep, and the director turned into a monster, leading to a grim conclusion. Bertrand says they still can't be sure and need to investigate the plan more deeply. Edith then warns that if the plan is fulfilled, the planet will be overrun by monsters. But one of the allies explains that no one will believe them since outcasts have no credibility. Bertrand becomes outraged, saying the whole world is at risk if the Conflux wins this battle. Edith understands his anger but warns that going public could be too dangerous for all of them. Indignant, he asks if they're just going to stand by because ignoring evil is being complicit in it with his insistence. The captain finally gives in but asks them to be extremely careful. Euphoria gets excited to expose the Conflux but Ruko holds her back, asking to make a plan first. Asa then offers to join them, grateful for the chance to redeem himself. The group arrives disguised on the outskirts of the city, and Euphoria says it's safe to act there. Ruko begins speaking to the crowd, quoting one of Conflux's own sacred books. Weirslaw then questions their logic, revealing that Fantasyland is an evil plan. But the crowd doesn't like it at all, accusing the group of slander and blasphemy against their faith. Soon they realize they're outcasts and decide to leave, calling the group insane. Elsewhere, a Conflux leader finds the outcasts' audacity to act against them quite interesting. The Conflux leader says not to rush, as hell wait for all the fish to show up. Frustrated, the group complains that another day has passed without any progress on the plan. Then a hooded man approaches, asking if they are the so-called outsiders. He reveals himself as a fugitive outcast, and says he heard their speech and truly believes them. Euphoria gets excited, and the man asks to join them since the Conflux ruined his life. With a smile, she accepts him into the team. Surprising the man and leaving Verwell embarrassed, they take him to their temporary base, apologizing for the simplicity of the hideout. But the man betrays them and reveals an army, and Verwell realizes they've fallen into a trap. Surrounded, Euphoria prepares to fight, saying angrily that now they're screwed. The Conflux officer appears with the traitor, mocking the stupid choice they made. With a cruel smile, he draws his sword and gives the final order to kill them all. But from afar, the scene is observed through the reflection of binoculars, revealing the army. An ARC member confirms the situation. Realizing that their companions are in trouble, he runs to the captain's room, warning Edith that Yuffie has entered combat. The captain becomes worried, realizing everything happened far too quickly for her liking. With determination, she gives the order for the rescue team to prepare to act. Euphoria joins the battle, saying that her sword is dying to taste their blood. Verwell asks Ruko and Asa to protect the others, assuring them he'll handle everything. Suddenly the guards fire, and an arrow hits Verwell square in the chest. Asa runs to help him, using his power to heal his friend's wound. The Conflux officer orders his men to target the healer to end the fight. Several arrows fly toward them, and the trio panics at the rain of attacks. A giant arrow approaches, ready to strike the group all at once, but Edith appears and blocks the attack, saving everyone at the last second. Euphoria gets excited to fight, but the captain warns they need to escape as fast as possible. The captain says she'll provide cover, and the group prepares to retreat to the ship. A ladder is lowered, and the Conflux officer swears they won't escape this time. With a powerful attack, he hits the ship, which begins to explode and fall. A fireball hits Verwell directly, and the boy screams in pain from the impact. Verwell says he's fine and tells them to go, but Edith says they should go first. With her command, the group begins climbing the rope ladder to escape quickly. Then the captain stays behind, holding off the guards to buy time for the others to flee. Verwell shouts for her hand, and the captain manages to grab on at the last second. Watching the ship fly away, the Conflux officer grumbles that they're good at running, but he tells the soldier not to chase them since he has more important things to do. The scene shifts to the ARC ship, with the group walking down the corridor after the tense escape. Edith asks if Roko is okay, but the girl says that Verwell is the one not doing well. The captain then goes to his room and asks how he's feeling now. He says he's much better thanks to Asa, but his expression shows he's depressed. The captain asks what's wrong, and he apologizes for the decision that risked everyone's lives. But Edith calms him, saying she agreed with it and even takes advantage of him for that. Still, he can't forgive himself. Thinking of the comrades who sacrificed themselves for them, it's explained that the conflux promises paradise to fulfill people's desires even with proof. People refuse to believe as long as tragedy doesn't reach them. Verwell questions whether it's worth saving the believers and if they shouldn't focus only on the outcasts. But Edith explains that the real enemy is the one who steals people's futures. Not the believers. He argues that they sacrifice themselves willingly and that it's the outcasts will survive. The captain then asks if he knows why the conflux persecutes outcasts like them so much. She explains that the organization created division, making others feel superior. With her hand on his shoulder, she says they must unite to fight against the conflux. She concludes that there must be a master behind the tragedies. Someone very powerful and evil. Verwell, confused, asks what they should do now with this new information. The captain calms him, saying to leave it for later since everyone needs rest. A few days later, the Ark ship hits something, and Euphoria is frustrated during training. She approaches Verwell asking why he's been so down these past few days. Then the twins appear, calling him useless and saying he shouldn't even be there. The boy lowers his head in silence as the girl's criticism continues, but Ruko makes a silence gesture, asking the two to stop talking like that. One of the twins invites him to a play, and the other helps remember the name of the show. They say the play makes people forget all their pain and worries in life. Euphoria then appears and kicks the two out, telling them to stop causing trouble. Ruko asks what's bothering him and says the twins only wanted to help in their own way. Verwell says the conversation with Edith left him thinking about a huge dilemma. He remembers her words, saying that if they ignore it, they'll become a new conflux. Frustrated, the boy shouts that he doesn't know what to do anymore and holds his head in his hands. Euphoria is startled, realizing he's like this just because of that worry. She calls him a stubborn fool, while Ruko laughs at the situation, finding it funny. Verwell then asks their opinion, and if they have any ideas on how to solve it. Ruko says they were hasty, and that the people's faith in the conflux is far too strong. But Euphoria gets irritated and starts shaking him, telling him not to mess with her head. Knocks on the door interrupt the argument and Edith enters. Surprised they're still there, Euphoria gets annoyed and threatens to hit him if he says but again. With a bump on his head, Verwell grumbles, asking why she didn't warn him before hitting. The scene shifts to the city, with the Ark's ship flying over the site of the performance. A giant teddy bear appears on stage, thanking everyone for attending the event. Euphoria complains, thinking the bear is ugly and just a way to stall the audience. But Edith's eyes sparkle, completely enchanted by the bear's cuteness. Embarrassed, the captain tries to hide it, saying she's only interested in the play. The curtains open, and 3 hooded figures step onto the stage, ready to begin. The group watches the play, which seems to be about a hero fighting against a villain. Suddenly, a giant stuffed pig and cat appear, and Edith gets excited again. At the end, all the actors come on stage and thank the audience for their support. The captain explains that the city has become more conservative, with few entertainment options. Verwell sighs, thinking the play might help the people free themselves from the doctrine. Edith laments that events like this will become increasingly rare because of the conflux. Then, Verwell hands her a teddy bear keychain, leaving the captain speechless. She's completely surprised and touched by the unexpected gift she just received. The boy, embarrassed, says he bought it at a stall and didn't know if she would like it. Edith thanks him for the gift, but as she reaches for it, a girl accidentally bumps into her. The girl steps into a puddle, and the keychain ends up falling to the ground with the collision. Suddenly, the girl starts running, and the teddy bear keychain flies through the air amid the chaos. With tears in her eyes, the pink-haired girl apologizes, completely embarrassed. Verwell tries to help but ends up being shoved, flying far from the force of the push. He lands face first on the ground, hitting his head hard and feeling dizzy from the impact. The boy gets up and asks what happened, seeing the girl and her friends fleeing. 3 conflux guards appear, shouting to catch the 2 outcasts who are running away. One of the guards knocks him down and accuses him of infiltrating the play to seduce the believers. The captain helps him stand, and the boy says he's fine despite all the confusion. Ruko comments that the soldiers mentioned outcasts and that they seem to be the dancers. The group exchanges looks, realizing they must do something to help the fugitives. Euphoria gets excited at the chance to fight, saying she can take them all down, but Edith calms her, saying they should act together to help the two escape. The group watches from a distance, and Verwell wonders how they vanished so quickly from sight. Suddenly a hand covers Ruko's mouth, silencing her so she won't make noise. The girl tells her to stay quiet, but Ruko asks her to calm down. The girl then questions her, and Ruko explains that she's also an outcast and only wanted to test it. The girl takes out a device and points it at Ruko to confirm the story. But the device shows no reaction, leaving the girl confused by the result. She then calls her partner Nuno, who appears from behind her, surprising Ruko. The two notice that Ruko's group is right there watching the scene from afar. The girl apologizes and says they're all outcasts, showing she isn't a threat. Edith then says it's not a good place to talk and invites the two to come with them. Already on the ship, the girl introduces herself as Aluya and says the conflicts held an inspection. Euphoria interrupts, curious to know what their lives are like traveling the world. Aluya explains that she used to be a famous stylist but now only makes the costumes for the play. She points to Nuno, who is a dancer, and the girl, embarrassed, says she's just an intern. With a smile, Euphoria invites them to join and become their companions. Aluya asks if they really can, and Edith confirms, welcoming the duo aboard the Ark. The girl jokes that they got lucky, but suggests that Nuno should dance to celebrate. Aluya encourages her, saying it's one more reason to practice and improve her skills. Nuno then starts to dance, and the whole group is enchanted by the girl's performance. Edith comments that a heartfelt performance can bring an incredible experience to everyone. Verniel gets an idea, realizing that Ark can help people free themselves. Excited, he takes Edith's hand and proposes that they create their own dance group. The captain is completely embarrassed and confused by the boys' sudden proposal. Euphoria and Ruko watch from afar, not understanding anything that's going on between them. The two whisper, finding their behavior strange, and Ruko mentions that he gave her a gift. Euphoria approaches and teases the boy, asking if it felt good to hold the captain's hand. Embarrassed, Verniel shrinks back, remembering the touch of Edith's hand in his. He apologizes for his excitement, and the captain asks if he came up with a new idea. Verniel explains that the Ark can't fight Hedon, since the public would see them as villains. Edith agrees with his analysis, understanding that they need a new strategy. Verniel suggests using plays to subtly expose the conflict's conspiracies. He continues, saying that with their new allies they could form a group just for outcasts. Ruko agrees, thinking no one would refuse to watch the shows, especially with no other options. The boy gets excited, saying that this would also help disguise their identities. Edith likes the suggestion and says she'll take the plan to the organization's superiors. The scene cuts to the Alliance base, where instructor Maria has just arrived. Bernard, the leader of the Ark, asks where she got the pendant she's holding. She explains that the object belongs to Verniel, and that the Alliance suspects it's a weapon. A flashback begins, and she explains that masked figures offered help to the Alliance. They claim to be vessels of a legend, and came to help develop new technology. Despite the distrust, the technology they offered greatly aided their research. With that, the Alliance managed to create more powerful weapons for the outcasts to use in battle. Bernard is confused, since in the end, they still don't know what the masked ones truly wanted. He then asks about the dance group proposal, and she says that's exactly why she came. Maria explains that the Alliance will help the Ark transition into a secret operation. In addition, the Alliance will turn the Ark's ship into a mobile headquarters. With a smile, Maria congratulates him and says she should now call him Captain Bernard. He thanks her for the support, and the two shake hands, sealing their new partnership. Maria then asks if he already has an idea for the new dance group's name. After thinking for a moment, Bernard suggests the group be called Gopher. The instructor looks puzzled and asks why he chose such a strange name. He explains that he was inspired by an old play that tells a story similar to theirs. With the new arc, they will lead the outcasts toward a horizon of hope and freedom. For months later, the scene cuts to the city of Tyriania, glowing with neon lights. The city is bustling, with people walking through the streets and watching the big screens. A torn poster announces the first tour of the new group Gopher in the city. Meanwhile, in a secret base, 2 armored guards protect a door. The mad scientist asks for the results of the experiments at the Starguard orphanage. He learns that, despite the valuable data, the experiment wasn't a complete success. He says the 2 outcasts are nothing but insects and won't interfere with their plan. He changes the subject and learns that the city's crystal obelisk is almost finished. The scientist celebrates, saying that this time he wants to see perfect results from the experiment. With a wicked smile, he assures that the city will become a paradise for the faithful. He then sits before the obelisks, praying to the glow of the sacred crystal. His image fades, and the obelisks begin to break apart into several blocks. A message warns that time is running out, heightening the tension in the air. Back in the city, the group arrives disguised in a dark alley for a meeting. They knock on a door which opens with a creak, revealing a secret hideout. Inside, Euphoria complains that the city is too big to investigate everything. Edith sips coffee and asks if they managed to get any new information today. Aluya says yes, but that the news isn't good for their side. Aluya explains that a well-connected friend has suddenly disappeared from the city. Euphoria doubts her, asking if she wasn't just deceiving them the whole time. The girl retorts that it's not easy to gather information, and Euphoria munches on some bread. Ruko says they found a construction site surrounded by Conflux soldiers. Edith is surprised by the information, and the girl confirms what they discovered. A flashback shows the girls spying on the site, which is being worked on with the help of a robot. They hide and watch, wondering what the hell that giant robot is. Aluya calls her friend ignorant, and says she's already defeated several of those useless robots. The girls notice a massive structure in the back and wonder if it's the obelisk. Back in the present, Ruko says that the Alliance's information seems to be correct. Verval asks if they didn't try to investigate further by talking to the workers. Aluya explains that thanks to someone's persistence, she ended up fighting and alerting the guards. The 2 start arguing, and Euphoria asks who she's trying to blame. Verval, embarrassed, covers his face, tired of their constant bickering. Ruko then hands him a necklace and asks if the object has anything special about it. The boy examines the necklace and says it looks like an ordinary ornament with some crystals. Edith explains that the obelisk is a symbol of the Archbishop's divine inspiration, and the ornament is a miniature version that the Conflux forces all believers to wear. Edith theorizes that the Fantasyland plan uses the necklaces for some kind of hypnosis. Ruko blames herself for not getting more information, but Edith reassures her. We see an incredible image of the group's new mobile base, the Gopher ship. In the city, a crowd gathers to watch the long-awaited performance of the group. Verval, dressed as a jester, announces that the show is about to begin. Backstage, Ruko and Nuno confess that they're very nervous about the performance. Aluya and Euphoria try to cheer them up, saying they've rehearsed a lot for this moment. Nuno fills herself with confidence and says they have to give their best on stage. Edith peeks from the wings and says it's time, asking if they're ready. With the help of a rope, the stage begins to rise with gears spinning. The show begins, with the group dancing, singing, and playing instruments to excite the audience. The crowd goes wild with the performance, singing along with the music. Suddenly the door is kicked open, and a voice yells for them to stop the show. Conflux guards invade the place, ready to end the party and arrest everyone. The officer says that the divinity will descend, and that only the devoted faithful will enter the kingdom. The crowd grows confused, saying they are all faithful and have never betrayed the Conflux. With a wicked smile, he orders everyone to pray with their pendants to prove their faith. The audience obeys, and everyone starts praying, holding their necklaces with both hands. He points at the group, asking why they aren't praying like everyone else. But Euphoria, clever, shows that she prepared a fake pendant as a disguise. Suddenly, A blue energy starts flowing from the necklaces, covering the whole place. People begin fainting one by one, and Euphoria is shocked by the scene. She and Ruko exchange glances, worried about what's happening to the audience. The officer orders the guards to check if anyone stayed awake amid the chaos. A guard steps on Varwell's hand, and he groans in pain from the stomp. The soldier says it's fine, since everyone is deeply asleep. The officer celebrates, saying they will be the sacrifice for the arrival of Fantasyland. The scene shows the entire audience unconscious lying on the floor without any reaction. Varwell stands up, observing the scene and preparing for what comes next. Varwell says that they're gone and asks why everyone suddenly passed out. Aluya calls the group to see something and everyone is shocked by the sight outside. The entire city is on fire with people unconscious all over the streets. Euphoria gets angry, saying it's obviously the fault of the conflux and the necklaces. Edith realizes that the situation is the same as at the orphanage and part of the plan. Euphoria suggests going to the conflux headquarters, but Ruko warns that the city is full of people. Varwell jokes that her loud voice drew attention and knocks on the door to scare the group. Edith tells everyone to prepare for battle, grabbing her weapon to defend the entrance. But the one who enters is Instructor Maria, who greets the captain, relieved to find her. Maria explains that she came to deliver supplies, but had to hide from the conflux. She opens a case, revealing new equipment to help the group in battle. The group gets excited about the new weapons, and Euphoria already wants to go fight. Aluya teases her, and the two start another argument, leaving Ruko embarrassed. Varwell asks if she's seen people turning into monsters, but Maria says not yet. She informs them that the Alliance is helping the Outcasts and asks what their next plan is. Varwell suggests they investigate the obelisk, as it could be the source of the problem. Maria agrees, telling them to go immediately since there's no time to waste. Edith asks Nuno to stay and look after the audience while the rest go investigate. They arrive at the construction zone, and Euphoria gets excited to test her new weapon. Edith gives the order, and the group advances together, ready to face whatever lies ahead. The team fights bravely, using their new weapons to defeat the conflux guards. Euphoria gets thrilled with the weapon's power, impressed by the new technology. Suddenly, the obelisk starts glowing, emitting a purple light throughout the city. Euphoria believes the obelisk is the culprit, and leaps to destroy it with her sword. But the blade hits and doesn't even scratch it, unable to damage the structure. The force of the impact throws her back, and the girl crashes hard to the ground. Maria is shocked as the obelisk's material is too strong even for the new weapons. Varwell takes out a device that begins to glow and resonate with the obelisk's energy. Then his pendant also glows, and the boy can't understand what's happening. Suddenly a golden butterfly appears, floating right in front of him in the air. Varwell asks the butterfly for help, and what the hell this Fantasyland really is. The butterfly explains that it's a cage for the soul, and that they must defeat the realm's ruler. She says that once he enters, everything will become clear, and the boy prepares to go. Suddenly the vision stops, and the boy returns to normal, blinking slowly. Edith asks if he heard anything, and the boy stays silent, watching the chaos. Varwell then says that the goddess appeared again, and showed him how to enter Fantasyland. But he warns that this time he wants to go alone, leaving the whole group surprised. Euphoria gets angry, thinking he doesn't trust them, and Edith asks for his reason. He explains that entering by force is dangerous, and that they risk getting lost. Holding her hand, he says that he doesn't want to risk anyone's life, especially hers. The captain slaps his hand and asks if he doesn't trust her and his companions. He says he does trust them, but doesn't want to put anyone in danger because of him. Aluya and Euphoria call him selfish, saying they'd be worried no matter what. Ruko agrees, saying the group never abandons a comrade, and together they're stronger. Edith, embarrassed, says that as companions they'll never let him fight alone. The boy apologizes, saying he oversimplified things in his head. Edith tells everyone to prioritize safety, even if the mission ends up failing. She looks at the obelisk and concludes that their souls will enter while their bodies remain. The captain asks Maria and her knights to protect their bodies while they're away. With everything ready, Edith orders everyone to grab their weapons to enter Fantasyland. Verwell focuses energy in his hands, preparing the device to guide the group. Everyone's weapons begin to glow, activated by the astrolabe's energy. The staffs also emit a pink light, preparing to enter the other world. The obelisk shines intensely, and purple energy begins to manifest on the ground. Bursts of light appear, and the group prepares to be transported to Fantasyland. Verwell feels the energy pulling him, and his body starts to fade away little by little. A flashback shows the boy being carried, with the city burning in the background. Maria and her knights take the unconscious bodies to a safe place. Suddenly, an explosion of light occurs, and energy shoots up to the sky with force. The group arrives in Fantasyland, a dark place full of floating blocks. Edith questions the place, and Verwell assures her he followed the goddess' instructions. Ruko spots a little girl alone on a carousel and approaches to talk. But the girl reveals herself as a creepy doll, with button eyes and a frightening smile. Ruko steps back in terror, shocked to see that the little girl is actually a puppet. Euphoria calls the place a dump, and Aluya agrees, saying it's a trash station. Verwell points into the distance, and the group sees a circus stage in the middle of nowhere. They notice the audience is entirely made of dolls watching a puppet show. The dolls cheer, saying they've finally found a place where they can be happy. Euphoria finds it strange that the dolls can talk, and wonders why they look so cheerful. Edith explains that everything is fake, and that the souls are trapped in false happiness. Aluya complains about how ugly the place is, and Verwell suddenly feels a strong headache. The captain helps him, and Euphoria says she's also feeling headache and fatigue. Edith warns that the place is corroding their souls, and that they must find a way to wake up the dolls. Verwell suggests that the puppet show might be the key to waking everyone up. With a grin, Euphoria draws her sword, saying she'll end the show right now. But the puppet on stage stops and looks down, as if waiting for something. Suddenly, the doll audience stops clapping, creating an eerie silence. The dolls slowly turn, and all of them stare at the group with their empty eyes. Ruko is frightened by the scene and wonders why they're all looking at them. Verwell wonders if they want the group to perform, and the puppet stares right at him. The doll transforms its hand into a blade and lunges to attack, catching the boy off guard. The puppet tries to stab him in the back, but he manages to dodge at the last second. Ruko yells for him to be careful, worried about the creature's surprise attack. Verwell summons a horse made of energy and prepares to block the doll's strike. He manages to defend with his arm, but the force of the blow throws him far away. Angry, Euphoria rushes forward and attacks the puppet, which blocks her strike with its staff. Edith watches from afar and comments that the enemies seem to be quite weak. Euphoria questions the doll's dark aura, wondering what the hell that thing is. Aluya screams, not understanding what's happening with the dark aura around her. Edith explains that it's corruption and warns that it's not safe to stay there for long. Verwell, even feeling the corruption, assures the captain that he can still hold on. Suddenly the dolls start standing up and leaving their seats in silence. Verwell wonders where they're going and the crowd of dolls begins to walk. Edith suggests they follow the dolls to see what's happening there. The group follows the crowd, blending in among the dolls with empty eyes. From afar, a security camera observes the group, locking onto them with a laser. The mad scientist watches everything, saying he's prepared a special stage for them. With a cruel smile, he says that a tragedy is perfect for the group's debut. The scene cuts to the real world, with Mariah's team fighting against the guards. The instructor orders her men not to let the soldiers get near the group. Back in Fantasyland, a massive explosion occurs, catching everyone by surprise. Their mobile base is hit and starts burning, turning into a ball of flames. Nuno is shocked to see the bodies, and an explosion suddenly goes off. The creatures merge and form a giant monster that roars and throws her away. Two knights appear and tell her to run, assuring they'll hold the creature back. But the monster is too strong and defeats one of the knights with a single blow. The creature charges to attack Nuno, who screams in fear with nowhere to run. But suddenly a hand of ice appears and freezes the monster completely. It's Issa, who arrives to save her and asks if the girl is all right. Nuno embarrassed, thanks for the help, and Issa smiles, holding her staff. One of the knights is happy to see her, and says she looks much better now. With a smile she says she can't wait to fight, and thanks the Alliance for their care. As Issa, awkward, explains that she's thanking instructor Maria for the help. Then Issa approaches Nuno and sniffs her, leaving the girl completely flustered. She and Asa introduce themselves as veterans, and Nuno thanks them for saving her. One of the knights asks if they have any sedatives for the mutant creatures. The leader orders them to give the monster a hypnotic so it won't transform again. But Issa says not to worry, since she has a way to calm the monsters down. Asa gets concerned and asks if her power can really be used like that. Issa assures that she can use it perfectly, and says it'll be fun to freeze their enemies. He says that for now, all they can do is try to stop the chaos and pray for them. Back in Fantasyland, the group is surrounded by puppets, and Verwell tells them to wait. Euphoria questions the weird outfits and says it's inconvenient to fight wearing that. But Eluia calls her a country girl, saying it's the latest fashion among nobles. Suddenly she realizes that the puppets look like the nobles from the city. Edith agrees and says Fantasyland is made from the desires of the entertainment capital. The puppets attack and the group starts fighting, dodging the creature's strikes. But the puppet audience applauds, finding the battle funny, and cheering for more. Euphoria gets annoyed by the scene, saying she's had enough, and will teach them a lesson. Verwell holds her back, asking her to calm down since they're just souls blinded by desire. The mad scientist watches everything through a camera, amused by the group's fight. He finds the insects quite strong but says he's seen enough of the show. With a wicked smile, he presses a red button releasing his children onto the stage. Suddenly the puppets vanish, and Verwell doesn't understand what's going on. An angelic creature appears, absorbing the doll's souls to gain more power. Euphoria recognizes the creature and wonders what the hell it's doing there. Edith shouts for everyone to get out of the way, and the monster launches an energy blast. The group narrowly dodges, and Verwell comments that the creature is even stronger than the others. They realize the monster is absorbing the doll's power and that it's the boss. Edith yells for them to be careful, and the creature opens a portal of purple energy. The attack explodes, and the energy begins corroding the group, leaving them in agony. The creature's power makes everyone start suffering from terrible headaches. We see flashbacks of each one's trauma, and Verwell's pendant begins to glow. A sphere of energy forms and an explosion of light occurs, protecting the group. Verwell is surprised, realizing the pendant can nullify mental attacks. Angry, the creature fires an energy ball straight at the boy. The attack hits him directly, and he spits blood from the force of the impact. Edith gets worried, but Verwell assures her he's fine and can still endure it. Euphoria turns to him and says not to sacrifice himself, since she's not weak against mental attacks. Edith tells the two to take care of him while she finds a way to deal with the monsters. The group tells the captain to be careful, and she charges alone to face the creature. The creature fires several attacks, and the two prepare to fight the monster. They rush forward together, dodging attacks and readying for a counterstrike. Suddenly, Euphoria has a vision and finds herself surrounded by Conflux Knights. She runs but realizes they always sacrifice the outcasts to save themselves. Her former companions blame her for their deaths, and the girl begins to tremble. With tears in her eyes, she yells that she won't believe that and faces the creature. She says she has a new home now, and that only by saying goodbye to the past can she move on. With a scream, she tells the creature to get out of her mind and unleashes a powerful attack. The vision disappears and the girl returns to normal, gasping after the mental battle. Then Edith also begins to be affected, and the dark aura completely surrounds her. She hears voices blaming her for leading the group to die, leaving her in torment. The voices continue, saying she doesn't deserve to be their companion, and that it's all her fault. In a vision, Firewall says he regrets ever meeting her, shocking her completely. With tears in her eyes, She tries to explain herself, but Ruko warns that she's about to snap. Firewall gets up and runs toward her, ready to try saving her from the illusion. He hugs her, but an explosion of energy happens, shielding the captain from the attack. The energy throws him back, and Ruko says he can't use the pendant's power. The golden butterfly appears and explains that using spiritual power is far too difficult. But he doesn't care and asks how to defeat the monster to save Edith. The butterfly says it needs his soul, but warns he might be trapped forever. With a smile, he says he'd trade his life to save everyone, and accepts the risk. He jokes that hell become a sleeping beauty, and that maybe Edith will wake him with a kiss. With tears in his eyes, he says goodbye and prepares for the final sacrifice. He tears off the pendant and asks the butterfly not to hesitate, and a bright light surrounds him. With a new power, he charges forward and attacks the creature with everything he has, without fear. The mad scientist watches everything and celebrates the perfect ending for his experiment. The scientist says that artificially created spirits can't understand human desire. With a smile, he says the group needs a leader with deep desires. Back in reality, the golden butterfly emits a strong light over the stage. The light spreads through the theater, reaching everyone who was unconscious. The two wonder where the butterfly came from, surprised by its appearance. The butterfly then lands on Verwell's forehead, transferring its energy to him. A little girl wakes up and sees a white dove dissolving in the air before her. With tears in her eyes, the girl runs and hugs her parents, relieved to be safe. Ayase and Nuno celebrate, realizing that everyone woke up and that Edith succeeded. The audience wakes up confused, not understanding why they suddenly fainted in the theater. One of the actors steps onto the stage and announces that everything is fine and that everyone can leave. The crowd starts exiting the theater, still not understanding what really happened. In the middle of the crowd, Instructor Maria appears, watching the evacuation of the place. The group blends into the crowd, leaving the theater along with the other people. Ayase approaches and asks Edith what happened to Verwell. The captain says it's not a good place to talk and leads the group inside. Edith explains that he traded his soul to save everyone, and Issa tries to wake him up, but Ruko stops him, saying they've already tried everything and nothing worked. Ayase suggests that Conflux might have a solution since Fantasyland is their creation. The captain says it's risky since they're weak and Conflux is furious angry. Euphoria punches the wall, shouting that this is so damn frustrating. She says she wants to destroy Conflux, but Ruko and Aluya watch her helplessly. Maria then says to leave it to her, and that she'll take Verwell to the Alliance headquarters. Several days later, the scene cuts to the Alliance base, where the group is gathered. Maria explains that he still hasn't woken up, and that they're using a device to keep him alive, but she says not to lose hope because she has good news to share. She activates a device, revealing that she received special coordinates the day before. The instructor explains that it was from one of the Star Hunters, and that it might be the key. Maria points to the map and warns that the location is in a remote and dangerous region. With determination, Edith volunteers to take Verwell to the Star Hunters. The rest of the group volunteers to go, too, saying they won't forget their friends. Bernard says he and Edith will go, and that the rest of the group should stay with the troop. Euphoria protests, but Edith explains that the troop is a treasure that must be protected. She continues, saying that now they have the duty to protect the outcasts and the people. The captain ruffles her hair and says that staying is also a way to help Verwell. The twins ask to come along, saying the trip will be boring without them. Edith tells the two to behave, but Bernard steps in and allows them to go. The girls celebrate, super excited about the chance to join the adventure. The captain then calls Euphoria and Ruko, saying she needs to talk to them. She reminds them that the group's goal is to rescue the outcasts and save people. Edith says that even without knowing the plan, Conflux won't abandon Fantasyland. She worries that people might prefer the illusion of sleep to the pain of reality. The captain admits that even she would have trouble resisting that temptation. Euphoria and Ruko promise they'll take care of everything and won't let Conflux win. Bernard asks Maria to guide the new members, and she promises to do her best with everything ready. The group says goodbye and climbs the stairs to embark on the mission. Edith holds his pendant and promises she'll make him wake up, no matter the cost. The pendant shines on her chest, and she fills herself with determination to save her friend. A mysterious woman watches their departure, Waving goodbye to the captain, the ship takes off, and the woman wonders if it was fate that brought her there. Several golden butterflies appear, flying around her in a magical glow. Back in the present, a city is in flames, with explosions everywhere. Euphoria fights bravely, using her red sword to defeat the enemies. A new character uses an energy shield to protect others from the attacks. She praises the duo's coordination, but says they need to save the people. Euphoria approaches an unconscious man and asks how he's doing. The woman says he fainted, and suggests taking him back to the ship. Virul wakes up, blinking his eyes and staring at the light on the ceiling. He sits up in bed, confused, wondering where the hell he is now. Outside, someone says, also assured that he should be fine by now. The person complains that if he doesn't wake up, they can just leave and be done with it. Messages from a butterfly say that a new future for the planet must be written, and so we'll stop here. Don't forget to leave a like and drop a hype to support us. See you next time.